Well, Tyler, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
I appreciate you coming on. It's really an honor.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that this is actually your first podcast.
It is my first
It's one
podcast.
of the few things, as we've conversed, that you haven't done yet. Because I think you've done just about everything else.
Well, there's more to come.
Yeah? Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We'll figure it out when
Yeah.
we get there.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've told a lot of people, like I think most of our PT sessions we could just hit the record button and they could be little podcast episodes because we always have interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
For sure. So, yeah, I think you might be one of the most interesting people I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, I know you're one of the most interesting people I know. That's not a might be.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. We were just talking about one of your major things that you've done is a solo canoe trip down the entire Mississippi River.
That's right. Well, I didn't get all the way to New Orleans, but
Yeah.
I got to Vicksburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing trip. It was 40 days, and solo, unsupported. So, meaning I didn't know anyone along the way. I brought my own gear, got my own food along the way, and took my time. And it was tough, but I needed it at that time because my son had passed away before that. He was 24, and I think that was my way of. It was my way of confronting the demons that I had during that time. And I think the 40 days was, it's a biblical number, and I didn't set out with that in mind. It just happened to be 40 days on the river by yourself, and that first couple weeks were tough because the last time I spent time with my son, McLean, was in the Boundary Waters canoeing. Mm. He was in the front. He was always the navigator, and I was in the back. And I definitely saw him in the canoe. I mean, a ghost or whatever, but he was there for that first half of the trip. Mm-hmm. And not all the time, but a lot of the time. And I didn't understand it at the time, but he was. I think what he was trying to tell me in that trip was the first half from south part of Minnesota, Brownsville area, all the way down to Cairo, Illinois, which is the beginning of the lower part of the Mississippi. Mm-hmm. He was the navigator. In other words, not navigating on the river, but navigating me, telling me, you got to go that way.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Are you okay? You need to go and navigate yourself. And so after that, I never saw him again. Mm-hmm. He was gone, and I was able to kind of. And the river changes there, of course, which is metaphorical in a sense because the upper Mississippi has locks and dams. They stop and start. The river's controlled. It's managed, and once you get to St. Louis, it's a wild animal flowing free, and without constraint.
Right.
And so, in a sense, that was me, right? I mean, he had navigated me through this part of the river, and then I was free. And so it was very memorable in that regard, and it was therapeutic. And I remember the weird thing about this is that when I was a kid, growing up in White Bear, I went down to Fort Snelling, and I stood up on the fence, the stone wall, and I looked at the Mississippi, and you can see it coming from the north and then going down to the south. And I was, at that time, I was probably in junior high school, and I was struck by that. I was like, wow, that is a massive river. Where does it go? You know, I wonder where that ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of in my mind thought, you know, wow, someday it would be interesting to go down the river and follow that river to the end. And as it turns out, I did. And I didn't know it at the time, of course, and I went on with my life. But I realized that that moment really was it was my destiny to take that trip. But I didn't know that it was because I was going to be taking it after my son died as a way of coping. And so that was another weird thing about it. And I remember after he died, and I knew that I had been planning this trip before he passed, so I knew I was going to be doing it. Mm-hmm. And then he passed, and then, then the next year I went on the thing and the trip, and it was, I realized that, well, actually what happened was when I was getting ready to go on the trip, I was obsessed with this going down the river. And I know now why, because I was destined to go down that river. Mm-hmm. And I think that story really is something that a lot of people deal with that in their own way, dealing with adversities and trying to get through and figure things out, and sometimes listening to things that you wouldn't normally listen to, signs of whatnot. And I think another takeaway for me was that you can't, people take weekend retreats and things of that nature, try to deal with adversity. I think it takes a lot longer than that.
Yeah, it's a process.
It takes a lot. It took me a week just to forget about my day-to-day electronic, life.
Yeah.
Let alone get into a spot where I could actually receive anything given to me from the outside world. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of reverse that process, right? It isn't about me. Things don't revolve around me. I'm just a part of things that are out there that I'm revolving around. And what are those things, and how are they affecting me? What can I do to impact that? So it's so the trip, I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That takes on a whole new meaning. That's an incredible journey. Yeah.
It wasn't
just in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, totally different, like personal journey you were on there.
Good point.
Yeah.
It took what I thought was going to be a fun journey trip down the Mississippi into a life-changing event.
Yeah.
That actually healed me in many regards.
Yeah. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I told you before, that sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could definitely make a movie out of that story.
There were
sure.
So many things happened on that trip. There are angels on the river. I suspect there are devils too, but I only met angels on that river. Just things happen you can't explain. Meeting people at certain times. In fact, a quick one. I was down in Muscatine, which is I think it's in Iowa.
It is in Iowa.
Yeah, and so it's a cool town. And I was coming under the bridge there, and it was rough, windy, and I was struggling. And I got into the marina, and there was a guy up on the levee, and he looked down at me. He's standing by his Harley, and he goes, "Are you through paddling?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm heading to the Mississippi, down to New Orleans." And he's like, "I thought so." And he goes, "Do you need anything?" And I said, "Well, really, I just kind of was looking for a place to stay in town overnight." And he goes, "Well, there's nothing around here. You're going to have to get up a couple miles off the river to find somewhere to stay." And he goes, "Well, I can take you there." And I said, "Well, I got my canoe." He goes, "That's okay. I'll go back and get in my truck, and we'll put it on my truck, and I'll drive you to the hotel, and I'll pick you up in the morning and bring you back. And I was like, wow. I said, really? I said, okay. So he leaves. He gets his truck, comes back. We unload my gear. We throw it in his truck. We're hooking up my canoe on the top of his Bronco, and all of a sudden this red, I think it was a Mustang convertible, pulls up next to us, which is kind of odd in itself on the river in Muscatine. And out come these two younger than me, women, and they walk up to me, and I'm dirty. I've been I look like a homeless guy. I haven't showered in probably a week, and probably, whatever. And they come right up to me, and one of them says to me, she goes, you're on a journey, huh? I was like, well, kind of, yeah. I'm heading down to New Orleans. And she goes, I thought so. And I don't know why. I didn't talk to many people. I didn't meet many people on the river, but I certainly didn't tell them about what my journey was all about.
Right.
That's a personal thing. But for whatever reason, and I don't know why, I told her, I shared with her that I was, either that my son had passed and that, this was a journey to kind of heal myself. And she goes, yeah. And then she pulls out this dog tags that had a fingerprint on it. And she said, my son died too, and these are his fingerprints.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow. So we were kind of, had that connection.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, do you need anything? And I was like, well, not really. She goes, well, here's well, the funny thing about this is I've been running low on cash because the river towns don't take credit cards. A lot of them are cash only.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had some cash, but I was running low on cash. I mean, literally, I think I had like $2. And she hands me a $100 bill.
Wow.
And she says, you take this. I said, no, I can't take that. She said, no, you need it. You take it. And she made me take it. And we said goodbye. And she got in her Mustang and took off. And, I mean, you can't, that's a strange person to come up to me
Very
like
odd.
that at that time, and to be bold enough to just sort of, get involved in what we were doing there.
Yeah,
and
that feels like too much to be a coincidence.
Yeah, so that was one of the river angels I met.
Yeah,
and I met more too. In fact, the guy that drove me to that took me to the hotel and picked me up the next morning.
Yeah.
I mean, he is another angel.
Just happened to be there. Yeah.
He saw me, and he thought that guy might need something.
Yeah.
And he reached out, and I got a good night's sleep and then a shower.
Yeah, there you go.
And then he took me to the hardware store because I needed a tarp because the tarp I had was bunk. It was not very good. So I got a new tarp, which I had needed actually when I was down in outside of Memphis, and a torrential storm came out of nowhere, and it was probably one of the worst storms I've ever been in, and I happened to be on the river at the time. It was lightning, and I had to get off quickly, so I did get off, and all I did was just put my canoe up on this beach and pulled out my tarp and sat underneath it while this storm passed for a couple hours, just hammered by the rain.
Wow.
And then it stopped. It was raining still, but it wasn't like thundering and lightning, and so that tarp came in handy.
Yeah, that had to be a scary moment.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky to be close to the shore.
Yeah.
I saw the clouds coming in, and I thought, probably shouldn't be out in the middle of I should get next to shore. And sure enough, and it came on quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just. That was really the worst weather I had on the entire trip. And the thing about it was I left Memphis and it was beautiful. Hour later, and the storm just kind of whipped up and crushed me.
You told me about one point where you were like caught in some nasty water. You didn't have control over your canoe anymore.
That was in Cape Girardeau.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only time on the river where I was not in control of my canoe. Basically, it would just be like spinning me around and taking me wherever it wanted to take me.
Yeah.
And that was luckily there weren't any barges at that time because that would have made it even worse.
Right.
But I ended up finally getting off the river there. Do you know where the Cape Girardeau is? Is that in Iowa?
I think that's in Missouri, isn't it?
I think
so.
I think it's just south.
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. That's a nasty place in the river. Historically, as I was talking about earlier, that's where Lewis and Clark came up the Mississippi.
That's right. Yeah.
And they got off the river and said, this is god-awful here, and they had the portage around it. And a lot of people have died there, and shipwrecked and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I didn't know any of that. Now I know why. But
you went back and read about that later.
Well, I was in town walking around, and they had plaques up and talking about, the Cape Girardeau and a lot of the river management that they've had to do there to kind of tame it.
Yeah.
Because it was much worse back in those days. A lot of people crashed their boats and whatnot there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look that bad either. That's the thing. It's deceiving. But the currents are strong.
Yeah.
Whipping. It's a big horseshoe.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Changes direction quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it narrows and changes around it. Yeah. Anyway.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great trip.
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure. So then what did you feel like came of that when you said at one point your son who was with you wasn't anymore, and he said something to you when you...
Well, the funny thing about it is he sat in the front of the canoe. He never looked back at me, and he never spoke to me. And I don't believe even now I've ever had a dream of him, which is odd. But I just, it sounds like it can't be true. But I really passed Dubuque, which is where Dubuque was the worst day on the river for me. Like the storm south of Memphis, whatever. Cape Girardeau, okay, whatever. But when I was at Dubuque, it was dangerous, and because it was so windy, and the river was flowing south, but the wind was coming from the south, and so even though the river was flowing one direction, I was being pushed the other direction, and it was just nasty. In fact, I got pushed all the way to the John Deere plant, which you probably know where that is.
I do know about that, yeah.
And I had to walk the canoe a lot of the way, kind of in mud and muck and stuff, and to get to the lock.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so windy and the waves were so bad. There's no way I could get into the lock. I never would have made it. So I had to cross the face of the lock and the dam to get to the other side.
Whoa.
To portage around it. And that was, luckily I was kind of almost into the wind, not directly, but I could paddle on one side and keep my canoe sort of in the direction that I was going, because I didn't want to get blown back, because the wind was coming into my face. Anyway, so I had to go across the dam. I got there, and I got off and portaged my canoe, and they have a little. If you've ever been there, you probably know this spot. It's a little lagoon, and there's a barge there. It's called the Barge Bar, and I set my canoe in the lagoon and walked to the Barge Bar, and it wasn't open, but I walked in anyway, and there were two guys in there, the owners.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Can we help you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm canoeing down the river, and I see it. I gotta figure out if I can even go into the river here, because it's so nasty." And he goes, "Does anybody do that?" And he goes, "Well, I've seen some kayakers do it." And they said, "You just follow that tree line there, and then if you just follow that, the river will grab you and just shoot you down the river." So you have seen it, and it was, yeah, it's doable.
Yeah.
Okay. And the weird thing is it was a beautiful blue day. The sky was blue like it is out there right now. It's just absolutely gorgeous. But the wind was like 20, 30 miles an hour, just cranking up that river. And you know that Dubuque, there's those, it's like a chute there, right? Because of the granite walls that come down there. And so I went back to my canoe and I laid down. I took a nap. And there's time for a nap because I was wore out. And I was trying to get, truth of the matter is I was trying to get the courage up to go. It was like, if you're going to do this thing, you know, you gotta go down and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, but it seems dangerous, you know, but you got to do it. You got to face your fears, right? If you're going to do this trip, and this was my first week or so on the river, and I feel like the river itself was like, you know, testing me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you man enough to do this or what? I mean, come on. And so I was like, oh, geez. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I load up and I get into the lagoon, and I'm in the lagoon, and all of a sudden this fishing boat, a bass boat, comes up, stops, and looks at me. It's this guy that was like a 70s guy, kind of a hippie, long hair, and his wife was there. She was kind of a hippie too. And we look at each other, and I said to him, I'm fixing to go out into that river there, and if something goes bad, you gonna help me? And he looks at me and he goes, I'll keep an eye on you. And that's all I needed. Yeah. And I knew that, you know, if something went bad, that guy would be able to come out and help me.
Sure.
So I just went along that tree line. And sure enough, as soon as I got past that tree, the river just went poof, and I was just like a rocket. Just down and you know, and everything was cool. And then finally I got down to the marina where I was going to stay overnight, and got into the marina. And and that was Dubuque. But that was a key moment in that trip where, you know, I had to face my fear, and I did. And so the point of it all being is that the whole sort of experience of that was not only the fear of the river, but the fear of losing your son and what your life will be like now, because you don't prepare for that.
No.
And so you have to face that fear. And you can do it alone, but that trip, you know, from your heart to your head is only about a foot, but without a guide, that's a tough trip.
Mm-hmm.
And my guide was my son in some odd way, and he helped me along the way until he said, all right, now you know what you need to do. You know, I'm okay. Are you okay? And so, you know, that was one of many things that happened along the way that, you know, kind of just look back on and go, wow, that kind of was, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. That's such an incredible story and journey, and so many, I know there's more to it than that even, but I mean, so many lessons and just things that occurred there, you know, like you talked about letting go of your day-to-day life so that you could take all this in.
Mm-hmm.
That was a part of it.
Big
and
time.
Then, you know, the stuff with your son you just described, and then, you know, also just the courage part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the piece of are you going to take this on or not?
Yeah.
You know? And
I think the river is
many
testing you and saying, look, if you can't hack it, you better get off now.
Yeah. So many life lessons right there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think you got to do something with this.
Yeah.
It's got to be a book.
Yeah, I've written about it. You know, I do write and written about it.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, kind of like the book in your office there.
Yeah, right.
The Warrior. A short book like that, maybe get someone who's struggling to think about ways to, get over it and move on, and that would be a good thing to do.
No doubt.
For people.
No doubt. Well, it's an inspiring story.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, so many stories. So many, gosh, we could sit here for hours and talk about them, but.
You're already an author.
I am. I did
Just
write a book.
add that to the list of all the things you've done.
It's quite a different book, although it's about leadership, so it's similar. It's similar.
Yeah.
But totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reluctant in some ways to talk about, in a commercial way, a story that's personal.
Sure.
So I have to figure that out.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, you got to think that could be helpful to so many people. Like you said, just what you've told me is, that's incredible. The stuff that you've, and how you kind of you have a way of tying that all together and making it all, make sense from a learning perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's unique. Not many people can articulate that the way you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's
maybe
you should share it.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I should.
It's not like you have to turn it into a $1 billion project or something, but yeah.
I got to tell you one last one, and we can move on. It was near the end of the journey. It was probably down in Arkansas, Mississippi area, so quite a ways down south, and I take the back channels every once in a while, not often. There weren't a lot of them on the lower Mississippi. There were many of them on the upper, where the dams are. But there aren't a lot of side channels. And I went down. It was a beautiful day, and I just went down a side channel. I put my legs up on the gunnels and was leaning back, my hands back like this, and I was just letting the river take me wherever. And I was going, again, the wind's always coming at you, blowing out of the south, so you're always going against the wind. And so it was completely quiet. And all of a sudden, about 20 yards to my right, I see this flash. And I hear the sound of claws on a tree. And it was a mountain lion, and it had its haunches were like the size of a horse. It was just this gigantic legs I just saw, sort of jumping up into this overhanging tree and jumping into the jungle of the Mississippi River, which is what you have pretty much the whole way. It is a jungle. It's thick. You need a machete to get through there. And so we sort of startled each other, and. After the trip, I was reading a book by Louise Eldridge, who's a Minnesota author, and she was talking about mountain lions. That one of her stories, and I realized that Native Americans have this. The animals have spirits, and the mountain lion has a spirit, and it's a powerful spirit. And it's one for about courage and boldness and vision, and it was when I think about it now, I didn't really think about it at the time. It was more like, holy smokes, I just saw a mountain lion, man, unbelievable. Well, but more interesting now is I get the spirit animal that came to me on the river at the end of the journey. That was almost like icing on the cake to say, now it's your journey. Go boldly, with strength forward, and so things like that. It was such an incredible experience.
That's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
There's too many symbolic things for that to be, like you said, it's like too much to be coincidence.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence per se. I think things happen, and again, I think things are happening all the time, and I think you have to be in a state where you're able to receive it, because you'll miss it.
I think you said a lot there.
You know, but many people now are not in that state to receive what they're being given, and so they miss it. So there's something to be said for allowing yourself to open up and receive,
right?
And not always be seeking,
right?
You know, but to be receiving, humbly. What is it that not always good?
Right.
You get dealt a bad hand once in a while.
Yep.
But you can learn from that.
No doubt.
You can depending on how you deal with it. Some people, I'm lucky. I think I've been able to cope with it. Some people not so much.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Well, that's got to be one of the hardest challenges anybody can face.
Yeah.
Did that ever, I mean, it sounds to me like from what you've described, you're a man of faith. Talk about angels and things like that. What did that ever, I mean, you hear a lot about people that go through something like that they really struggle with that piece of it. It tests their, it makes them question it, why would something like this happen,
Well, that's interesting. I think.
Did you ever go through any of that or have any times where you question that?
No, I never did. I always felt like it was unlucky, particularly because he was such a fine young man, and you just you got to ask why, of course, but that's not a question you should ask. I don't think. I think it is, and you just have to understand that life is good and bad, and this was a bad blow. That doesn't mean I should question my faith. And clearly, it inspired me to look at things differently and maybe deeper. And I think I've clearly it strengthened my faith more than anything. I didn't turn away from it.
Yeah. That's very cool. Yeah, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, I mean, when we were my wife and I were at the hospital when he died, obviously, and he died at 4:30 in the morning, and we had been there all night, and it was late at night. I don't know what time, but we were in the kind of the waiting area outside of his room, and we were in the hallway, and it's like almost out of nowhere came three people and a baby. They were, as I would find out, from Liberia, and the man had the baby, and his wife was there, and an older woman, and my wife and I were standing across from them, and she walked up to him. I'm sorry, she walked up to my wife and said, "It's a blessing." And we were like, what? And she goes, "You are blessed." And she, tell me you're blessed. And my wife is like, "Who is this person?"
Yeah.
She was very firm. "Tell me you're blessed." I am not going to leave, in her Liberian accent.
Yeah.
"I am not going to leave until you tell me you're blessed." And my wife wouldn't do it. She's like, "Tell me you're blessed." And so my wife goes, I'm blessed. And then they hugged her, And then they left. And that night he died.
Wow.
So, there's another strange thing that happened.
That is very strange.
And of course, why are we blessed at this moment? I mean, clearly we're not blessed at this moment.
Yeah.
Our son is dying.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. And
that's so wild.
Mm-hmm.
Seems just inexplicable, but that's just so, yeah, it's wild.
And there's more to that Liberian story, but I'm going to save that for the book.
Sure. There you go. See, there you go. Good. Well, speaking of books, not to shift gears too much, but you wrote a book, 12 years ago now, something like that?
Has it been that
12,
long?
13 years ago?
Has it been that long?
Published in 2014.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Was that about the time you were doing an Ironman triathlon too, or?
Somewhere around there. It was. I was 49 when I did my Ironman. So I'm 63 now. So I don't do the math very well, but yeah, it's about that time.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was your first Ironman at 49.
Yeah, I did. I said I want to do an Ironman before I'm 50. And I had been doing triathlons before that for a few years.
Yeah. What got you into those? Because you came up as a hockey player and a baseball player and a football player.
What got me into triathlons?
Hockey and baseball aren't usually the precursors to triathletes.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I think it started with my wife worked in a company, and they had been working with a gentleman from Wayzata who was in financial planning, whatever. And he was a silver medalist in the Olympics as a swimmer. Peter was his name. And I was in swimming at the time, and I wanted to ask him if he could help me swim better, just give me like a lesson. Because I had been swimming. I mean, I swam from Alcatraz. I did the Golden Gate to the Bay Bridge.
When did you get into swimming? Where did that come from?
I've always been a swimmer.
Okay.
I grew up in White Bear Lake.
Just from a kid.
Yeah. And
okay.
I love to swim, and I've always loved to swim. And so I just say that was something I could do to be in shape. And so I really got into swimming, and then I kind of was a good swimmer, and so I thought, well, I'll try. I like the bike a little bit, hate the run, but so I thought, well, I'm just going to do a triathlon just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I ended up being really good at it, so I just did it, and then continued to do it, and that's how it kind of came in.
Yeah.
Came in through swimming first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of triathloners are not great swimmers.
Right, that's true.
These are good bikers or good runners, and they struggle on the swim. I would just kill it in the swim. And I was a pretty good biker, not so good runner.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what makes a lot of the best triathletes good is they come up, they enjoy the swimming part.
Yeah.
And if they can dominate in that. Because I think that's the hardest one
to make up time.
Get good at.
Yeah, to make up time.
Yeah. Because most people can figure out how to struggle through riding a bike or running.
Yeah.
But swimming is a different animal.
Yeah.
That takes a different level of conditioning and technique and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. That's wild. So you swam from the Bay Bridge.
From the Golden
Gate to the Bay Bridge, which is like a 5 mile, 6 mile swim?
I think it's 5 miles, I think.
And how many times did you do that?
Just once.
Just one time on that one.
Yeah.
And then you did the swim from Alcatraz on another time.
A couple times, yeah. And I'm doing it again in August with my son and daughter. We're going to do it together this August, yeah. I got to start training for that at some point.
It's wild.
Yeah. That's a cool swim.
You're an adventurer. Yeah. There's not many people that just let's go swim from Alcatraz. There's not many Minnesotans sitting around going, I think I'll go swim that Alcatraz swim again.
Yeah, it's fun.
When did you first do that?
About that same time back in, when I wrote the book. And I was into the whole swimming thing. Yeah.
How did you find time to do all of those things?
Just
like you're in your upper 40s, low 50s, and
I was working full
you're
time,
working,
teaching at the university,
triathlon, swimming from Alcatraz, writing
just
books.
a busy guy.
Were you just like on 12 coffees a day?
Yeah.
Or what? How did you fit all that in?
I just did.
Yeah.
Just that's how I rolled. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, look back on it now, and I'm like, I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. Did you sleep much?
Yeah, I slept well.
Yeah.
When I did.
For short periods. Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah. That's good though. So what were you doing when you were working and you were also teaching, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's how the book came about. I was asked by a guy who was the director of a program at the University of Minnesota, who had a program for IBM back when I think it was in Rochester, and then IBM moved out, and then they kind of shut the program down. And but he asked me if he thought that if I thought there was a place for this course, this program in the Twin Cities, so I looked at it and I said, yeah, I think there is. And so he asked me if I would be the faculty director for the program, actually start the program up. And so I was going around finding individuals who could be in the faculty group and also in the support group. And so I was meeting with professionals around Twin Cities, and I met with a gentleman who was in the MBA program at the university. I forget his name now, but I think he's still there. But we met, and I told him a little bit about my views on leadership. We were just talking about leadership in general, and he said, you should write a book about it. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe I will. And so I did. And now I use it as a textbook for my class as well. So,
yeah.
Which is manufacturing in a global economy.
Nice.
In fact, I'm just finishing one up right now.
You're still teaching now?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I teach.
I thought you were retired. You're not really retired.
Well, retired from working, but teaching is different.
Yeah. Okay.
So I teach I teach one course every semester. It's pretty popular. Generally, maxes out.
Okay.
And
that's through Minnesota?
Yeah.
Through the University of Minnesota?
Yeah. We have a lot. It's open for all students. So I get a lot of students from the Carlson School and from Science and Engineering School. They tend to like. It's a practical book.
It is.
Course, and I use the book and a few other books that I've liked that are also very practical.
Yeah.
And I think they appreciate that. Not so much theory. Theory's good.
Yeah.
It's like art and science, leadership, everything. It's a little bit art, a little bit science.
Totally. Yeah. It's a great book.
Yeah.
You gave me a copy. I read it. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's
Can people just buy that still, or is it?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Can you get it on Amazon, or where can you get it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can go on Amazon and buy it.
Yeah. There you go. In Pursuit of Leadership.
In Pursuit of Leadership.
Yeah.
That's a good one. For emerging leaders. So it's based for new and emerging leaders, not so much CEOs and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's more for frontline leaders.
Yeah.
Which is where I think it's most important.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely good lessons in there.
Yeah.
I won't give it all away, but yeah. It's good though. It's very practical, like you said. And I think one of the things that's interesting in there is the stories you tell about how developing leadership takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And you told the stories of like some of the guys in the military that like you had to be a follower first and develop that through that whole pathway. And then it's like eventually you get to that position, and all of those experiences leading up to that shape, the type of leader you become.
Right.
And
very
interesting.
As a follower, that's, a lot of people, they don't want to be followers. They just want to lead, right?
Yeah.
That's possible, but, you want to be a follower of leaders so you can watch them and learn from them. That's what I did, I looked at the leaders that I was reporting to, and I could assess from them, those are the good things and those are the not so good things, And you could develop for yourself, you could see, these are the things that work, These don't work so well.
Yeah.
But unless you're a follower, you really don't. Unless you're a studious follower, you can't really learn that. And so I think, followership is an apprenticeship to leadership.
Yeah.
That's the theme of that chapter.
Yeah. You kind of came up through the ultimate system of that in the military.
I did.
Yeah.
And
went through West Point,
Yeah.
one of the rare two-sport college athletes.
That's right.
Yeah. Baseball and hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Played for
Jack
Riley, the first ever Olympic gold medalist coach.
That's right.
That's pretty incredible.
He was.
Yeah.
He was a great man.
Yeah. And then all-state in football in high school also.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, what haven't you done?
Well, it's funny. As a kid in high school, I was all about sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, that was my passion, and I don't know, I was just hardwired for that. And so I was I love baseball as my favorite sport. Even though I played hockey, baseball was my ultimate sport. And I was recruited by Gene Stapleton down at Wichita State, and to play baseball. In fact, when I was a senior, I think I went to a camp down around Chaska Chanhassen.
Okay.
Where you live, right?
Yeah.
I was invited to a tryout. It was the Dodgers. I remember a guy, Dale Reynolds was his name. In fact, the St. Paul Saints, which are in St. Paul now, they originally was a farm club for the Dodgers.
Oh, really?
Until 1961, I think. So when they left and went somewhere else, there were a lot of Dodger scouts in the area, guys that had worked here or been involved in that when they were a AAA program.
Mm-hmm.
Dale was one of those guys, and he asked me to go down to a tryout, and I did. And he recommended that I go down to junior college in Texas and play year-round after I graduated. Mm-hmm. And so that was an avenue. I could have played at Wichita State for Gene Stapleton, but I just wanted to go to the military academy. That was sort of where, that was my, I went on a recruiting trip there for hockey, and I loved it. I just thought, wow, this is cool. I want to go to the academy. So I did. And,
is that what got you in the door there, was hockey? It was more so than like an interest in being involved in the military?
Yeah. I wanted to play hockey for Army. That was and Jack Riley. I mean,
right.
I mean, that was
like, kind of the pinnacle at the time, right?
Yeah, and if I didn't like West Point, you can leave after 2 years, and there's no commitment. Yeah. So I thought, why not, right? I mean, and then when I got there, I loved it. Yeah. A lot of what I write about in the book is about what I learned at West Point. Right. West Point's job is to train leaders of character. Okay, not just leaders, but leaders of character. And I never even knew what character was. I mean, what is that? What is character? I didn't really know what that was. So I had to, as I thought about, what is character? Why does character matter? Does character matter? Of course, it does matter. Yeah. And that's why they want to develop leaders of character. And so that was something that I used in the book to stress the fact that we all have character. It's neutral. It can be good or bad. But it's up to you to improve. Find out what you're good at. Keep doing it. Find out what you're not so good at. Work on it. Figure out why. Yeah. You have a tendency to tell white lies, whatever. Figure it out. Yeah. You can do that. Yeah, for sure. Work on it.
Yeah.
And if you just got to continue to keep pursuing positive character growth, and then it just becomes it's like exercise. It just becomes natural.
Yeah. Aside from your hockey coach, who were some of the people that you looked up to the most in those leadership roles? Like at West Point or after that? How long were you, not to segue too much, how long were you in the Army after?
Well, I was in
West Point.
Yeah, I went to the Defense Language Institute, Presidio of Monterey, studied Dutch, and was a Dutch linguist and then also German linguist in the Cold War. That's what I did.
Really?
So I worked in Europe for pretty much my 5 years, and then I got out and I was in the reserves back in California, in a basic training unit. So I was about 8 years of military service in the Army, and then so that was that. But my people that it's funny that the people that many of the people who had the most impact on me were coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my first coach, Coach Happy, who was a White Bear hockey coach. And another coach I had was a high school coach was Tom Simpson. These two individuals had a real big impact on me at a young age. And I think when you're young, you can be influenced by coaches in a lot.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Probably more so than when you're older. But these guys were top-notch character individuals and disciplinarians, and I learned a lot from them. I'll give you an example. It might be in the book, actually, but a quick example. Tom Simpson. We used to, White Bear had two schools, White Bear Mariner and White Bear Bears. I was on the Mariner team. Of course, we were the better high school.
Of course.
And we would have to go to, we'd have to walk to practice in the snow. We didn't take a bus. We had to walk there. It wasn't that far, but still.
Right. Uphill both ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays they probably would bus you, but back then, I mean, you walked, you carry your back, your stuff and your sticks. You'd go to practice, you'd walk back, and then we'd have to skate outdoors and working on physical conditioning.
Yeah.
And he would make us do wind sprints, line drills.
Yeah.
And during the line drills, he would watch, and when certain skaters would not go all the way to the line, he'd yell and say, "Stop on the lines. Quit cheating your teammates. Don't cheat your teammates." And I just thought, who does that? Who looks at it pays that much attention? Most coaches might just sit back and blow the whistle and down and back, down and back. He was watching to see who would stop on the line.
Yeah.
You go all the way to the line, and then you go back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stop 3 feet short.
Right.
That's bad character.
Right.
You're cheating your teammates.
No doubt.
And I just thought, wow, that guy.
It's instilling discipline too, right?
Discipline, attention to detail, and a lesson about.
For sure.
Don't cheat your teammates. You got to. What is that?
Yeah.
And so, little things. That's just a simple example of and they were always kept their cool. They didn't get mad.
Yeah.
They just were very measured.
Yeah.
In good times and bad times. And I like that too. I wish I could have said when I coached I had the same level of measure, but
you got a little fiery sometimes?
I'm a little more fiery. But
when did you coach?
Oh gosh, I coached hockey for 40 years probably.
Really?
Yeah. I just quit a couple years ago. That was another thing I did. I coached my son, and not my son, coaching hockey.
What level?
You name it.
Yeah?
Pee-wees to high school, probably. Yeah,
really?
All the way up. Nothing beyond high school, though.
Yeah.
I remember my first coaching gig. I was living in Chicago. I worked at Abbott Laboratories, And one of the mechanics that I worked with was from Finland. His name was Jukka Millamaki. Jukka came up to me one day. He heard I was a hockey player, and he said, "Tyler, you want to coach my kids?" I was like, yeah, I think I might do that. It's not fun. He was from Zion, and of course you don't know, Zion, Illinois is up in North Chicago. It's a very, unfortunately, a depressed area.
Yeah.
Very poor. And a lot of the kids couldn't afford the equipment.
Right.
We'd have to try to go out and scrounge and find equipment for the kids to be able to play.
Yeah.
And they weren't all that good either. A lot of the local kids, some of them were pretty good, but we had 3 Finnish guys, and and these guys were like Olympians. I mean, they were just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, and they just carried us.
They stood out a little bit.
One was a goalie, and we had 2 forwards, and they just like. So that was my first coaching gig.
Yeah, that helps.
We didn't win a lot of games, but we were competitive. We worked hard.
Yeah.
They worked hard.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you this quick story, and you'll probably edit this one out. But my first, my wife was not much into athletics, and she didn't like sports. She grew up on a farm in Ohio, and was always picked last. So she hated sports. And so she takes, I said, Diane, you got to come see these boys play. So we had to go all the way, an hour into Chicago suburb, some rich suburb, to play this team. And we got there, and we're in this arena, and we're warming up, and the ref comes over, and he kind of looks at me, and he goes, "Your kids are kind of like the Bad News Bears." I'm like, "Shut the son of a..." And I was like, "Don't you talk to me." And he's like, "You're out of here." He kicked me out of the game. And so I go back up and sit next to my wife, because this is warm-ups. And she says, "What are you doing?"
You got tossed in warm-ups.
She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I got kicked out." She goes, "The game hasn't even started yet." I'm like, "Well, the ref said some things I didn't like. He threw me out." And so she didn't go to another game for 20 years probably. So anyway, that was my story about my first coaching gig. Zion, Illinois.
Yes. And there was a lesson in that too. Yeah.
I love
Don't
those.
lose your cool with the ref and warm-ups.
Wow, he usually he'd come up and just shake the coach's hand. You don't need to be making
He was smarting
stupid
off to you right before the game.
Yeah, because we kind of did look like the Bad News Bears, but that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, so I coached for 100 years.
Yeah.
Until 2 years ago, and then I shut her down.
Hung up the skates finally.
Yeah.
Are you still playing any hockey?
No.
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 You're officially retired from
I am 100% retired in every way. In fact, I'm hockeyed out.
Yeah? Well, you had a pretty long run with it.
I did have a long run.
And you told me the story the other day, you played for Jack Riley, the first Olympic gold medalist coach.
You got it.
And you also had a camp with
Herb Brooks. Right.
So you were coached by both Olympic gold medalist coaches from 60 and 80.
I might be the only person alive
that
could have that distinction.
Right. There can't be many. You'd have to go through the Army roster, right?
Yeah.
And
not
figure out if any of them were from Minnesota, right?
Not many. And and that during the time when he was coaching at Kenyaco, which was early in his career, but when he was coaching at the University of Minnesota. And it wasn't a big school.
Right.
He was the St. Paul guy. He lived there.
Yeah.
And that was where the Kenyaco school was. So it was a small, select sort of community hockey camp.
Right.
And he was there.
And he told you should be a defenseman.
Well, man, I didn't listen to him. I was a forward anyway. I wanted to score goals.
Yeah. That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
most people in Minnesota know that Herb Brooks got cut from the 1960 team.
That's right.
So you went and played for his coach.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I met him. I met him in when I was at West Point. My freshman year, actually, it was summer of my freshman year. It's called Beast Barracks. It's like boot camp. They sent me back to Minnesota to play in the All-State game because I was All-State football.
Yeah.
I was the only cadet that they'd ever allowed that, and it was new. And I think they did it as sort of a marketing tool to get people interested.
Sure.
So I came back, and Herb Brooks was the speaker because he had just run the Olympic gold medal.
Right.
And so he was he spoke at the All-State football banquet, and I went up to him after he spoke and told him I was at Army and my coach is Jack Riley, and he smiled at me and said, "He's a great coach." And then I quickly I said, "Yeah, and then, you won't remember this, but I went to your camp when I was a kid at Kenyackle, and you told me I should be a defenseman." And I said, "But I didn't listen to you." and he laughed about that too, and signed my program.
Yeah, and at the time you said you didn't know his playing situation before that.
Good
so you
point.
brought that
In
up, and he had maybe a little
1980
wry smile of like, is this kid trying to mess with me, or what's going on here?
This was 1980. There was no internet. There wasn't a lot of information, and so I had no idea he was the last guy cut from the team.
Yeah,
I learned about that many years later, probably when the Miracle movie came out.
right.
And so.
And then you went back to that moment and went, oh, he probably thought.
No,
Yeah.
he was a good guy.
Yeah.
I always dreamed of playing for him at University of Minnesota, but
Sure.
I wasn't good enough. Yeah,
Well, I think you did okay.
I did okay.
You did okay.
But
Yeah.
the guys that went there back then were all just
Oh, yeah.
the best,
High level.
the best of the best,
Olympians, basically,
yeah,
right?
Just
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
I was back when we used to win national championships for Minnesota Gophers.
Yeah.
We need to
right.
get back to that.
We do.
So.
Maybe you can come in as a consultant. You never know.
So my buddy, when I was growing up, Coach Happy, when you talking about who influenced me,
Yeah.
Coach Happy coached our team in Pee Wee, so we won the state tournament and went to the national tournament in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Anyway, one of our best players, well, we had a guy named Randy Sigsworth on our team who was certifiably the best hockey player in the world, or in America at that time. He was a man among. He was unbelievable. He carried us.
Yeah.
So outside of him, the next best player was we called him Swede. Is Jeff Larson, and he walked on. Yeah, and we jump ahead to high school.
Yeah.
And we played together, Jeff and I, and all these guys that had been together. Randy wasn't there. Randy had after Bantams, he got. He kind of drifted off on the wrong side of the tracks, and which is a shame because he would have been a great hockey player. He would have played in the NHL, and I'm sure and been fantastic. But he got involved in drugs and things and faded away. Anyway, Jeff was our best player, and he walked on at the U, and he made the team as a freshman. And in his senior year, he was captain. Captain of the team.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a climb.
Yeah. So he made it, and so we're real proud of him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've got to go. You've got a hard break here.
Okay.
So I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of that. It's incredible stories. We're going to have to do this again sometime because I know there's more. Yeah, there's a lot more. There's so much that we haven't even gotten into.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It was really a pleasure to
Absolutely
share some of this with you.
Absolutely. The honor's all on this side of the table.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Good.
We'll wrap it up. Bye, everybody.